The dining room smelled of seared meat and rosemary butter, and there were 11 plates of steak on the long oak table, 11 plates with herbed potatoes and roasted carrots, and a little folded napkin shaped like a fan, the way my daughter-in-law Sterling had learned to fold them at a hosting class she had taken in 2019. 11 plates with proper silverware, 11 crystal water goblets, 11 place cards in calligraphy. There was a 12th setting at the foot of the table. In front of the 12th setting was a paper cup. The paper cup had a lid. Through the small slit in the lid, I could see a thin trickle of steam. Beside the cup was a single plastic spoon. There was no place card. It was Sunday, October the 13th, my late husband Hollis's birthday, the first one since he died. I had driven 71 minutes from my apartment to my son Garrett's house, because Sterling had called me on Wednesday and said, "Genevieve, we want to have everyone over for Hollis's birthday. Just a small thing, family only." I had brought a peach cobbler. Hollis's mother's recipe, the one I had spent 38 years perfecting, because Hollis had said in 1986, the second week of our marriage, that nobody on earth made it like his mother had, and I had taken that as a challenge. 47 years later, the cobbler in my hands as I crossed Garrett's threshold was, by any reasonable measure, better than his mother's had ever been. I had gotten up at 5 in the morning to make it. The crust was lattice. The peaches were from a farm in Healdsburg I had driven to the day before. Sterling had taken it from me at the door with 2 fingers, the way a person takes a wet umbrella. "Oh, Genevieve, you didn't have to. We already have dessert." She had walked it directly into the kitchen and set it on a counter behind the stand mixer, where I knew, without looking, it would not be served. Now I was standing at the foot of the dining room table, looking at a paper cup of soup. The room was full. My son Garrett at the head of the table, his brother-in-law Marsh and his wife Annalise to his left, Sterling's parents Davenport and Lorelei across from them, Sterling's sister and her husband, the 2 teenage cousins Sterling had been mentoring through high school, Garrett and Sterling's 2 children, 11 people in the family. Hollis and I had once been the patriarch and matriarch of 11 plates of steak in honor of his birthday, and 1 paper cup at the bottom of the table for me. Sterling was already seated. She had placed the paper cup at my setting before I came in from the foyer. She had done this on purpose, with witnesses in the room that had been decorated for the occasion of my husband's birthday. She looked up at me. She smiled. "Genevieve, I made you a butternut soup. I know you said your stomach has been a little sensitive, and steak can be rich. The cup is so you can take it home if you don't finish." I had not said my stomach had been sensitive. I had not said anything about my stomach in 11 months. The reference was a small, careful fiction designed to give the paper cup a respectable shape. It was the kind of sentence Sterling had been deploying for 15 years, since the first Christmas she came into the family, sentences that explained her behavior in advance so that any objection would sound ungracious. I did not sit down. I looked at the paper cup. I looked at my son. Garrett would not meet my eyes. He was cutting his steak. He was cutting it small. The way a man cuts something when he is hoping the action will last longer than the moment. I did not cry. My hands didn't tremble. I have learned, over 76 years, that the moments that matter most do not arrive with a tremor. They arrive with a stillness so deep you can hear the silverware clink against the plates of other people who are pretending nothing is happening. I set my purse down on my chair. I did not sit. I reached into my purse and I took out a sealed envelope. It was a thick envelope, cream paper, my lawyer's name and address in the upper left corner. I had been carrying it in my purse for 6 days, since the previous Tuesday, when I had signed the documents inside. I had not planned to read the letter today. I had planned to wait until the new year, when the dust of Hollis's first birthday and Christmas had settled. I had planned to be kind about the timing. The paper cup had changed my mind. "Garrett." My son looked up. Mum, we." "Garrett, I would like everyone to please put down their forks for a moment." The table went quiet. Davenport, Sterling's father, set his wineglass down. Lorelei pressed her napkin to her lip. Sterling's smile remained on her face, but did not move. It had become a thing she was wearing rather than expressing. I held up the envelope. This is a letter from my attorney, Miss Marguerite Dempsey. It was prepared on Tuesday and signed and notarized that afternoon. I had intended to communicate its contents to Garrett and Sterling in private at a later date. I have changed my mind. Given the seating arrangements at this table tonight, I think it is appropriate that everyone present hear it together, since this is, as Sterling said on the phone, a family matter. Sterling's smile cracked, just slightly, at the corners. Genevieve, this isn't really… Sterling, I would like you to listen, the same way I listened, in 2009, when you stood in this room and explained why my own mother-in-law's china should be packed away, because it didn't go with your color scheme. The same way I listened, in 2014, when you told my granddaughter Posey that Grandma Genevieve doesn't really cook anymore, sweetheart. The same way I listened, in 2022, when you announced at this table that you and Garrett would be making decisions about Hollis's care, now that he was struggling. You spoke. I listened. Tonight, I am going to read. You are going to listen. It is a small reciprocal arrangement. I opened the envelope. I unfolded the letter. I began to read. Dear Mrs. Genevieve Lockhart, this letter confirms the legal actions taken on your behalf this week regarding the property and financial matters you and I discussed on October the 7th. First, the property at 1428 Holcombe Drive, currently occupied by your son Garrett Lockhart and his wife Sterling Lockhart, is, as of October the 8th, returned to your sole legal ownership. As we reviewed in our meeting, the deed transfer executed in 2018 contained a reversion clause inserted at the request of your late husband, Hollis Lockhart, which stipulates that ownership of the property reverts to the surviving spouse upon the death of the original co-grantor, unless the resident grantees have, within 12 months of that death, paid the full balance of the mortgage co-signed by the original grantors. As of October the 7th, Garrett and Sterling Lockhart have not satisfied the mortgage balance, which currently stands at $478,000. Pursuant to the reversion clause, the property has reverted to your sole ownership. The county has been notified. The new deed was filed on Wednesday morning. I paused. The room had not made a sound since I started reading. Sterling's mother, Lorelei, had set down her fork. Davenport's mouth was slightly open. Sterling's sister was looking at Sterling, who was looking at me with an expression I had not seen on her face in 15 years of marriage to my son. It was the expression of a careful woman who has just realized, in real time, that her script has stopped working. Garrett said, very quietly, "Mom, I'm not finished, sweetheart." I read on. Second, pursuant to the loan agreement signed by Garrett Lockhart on April the 11th, 2019, the personal loan extended by you in the amount of $58,000 for the purposes of, quote, kitchen renovation, Mom, just for 2 months until the bonus has been formally called in. Repayment is due within 30 days of the date of this letter. The loan was documented at 4% interest, compounded annually, and currently stands, with interest, at $69,412. Garrett closed his eyes. Third, the personal property held in storage at 1428 Holcombe Drive, including but not limited to the dining room table, the china cabinet, the silver service for 16 which belonged to Hollis Lockhart's grandmother, and the original oil painting of the Russian River by Granville Redmond, which has been hanging in the front parlor since 1988, is to be returned to your possession within 14 days. A list of all such items is enclosed as Exhibit A. A representative from Brentwood Moving will arrive at the property next Saturday at 9 a.m. to collect them. You have authorized the cost. Sterling's mother made a small sound. Fourth, the will previously executed by you in 2019 has been revised. The principal beneficiaries are your two grandchildren, Posey and Crawford, in equal trusts to be received at age 25. The trustee is the firm of Dempsey, Whitlock, and Soriano. The remainder of your estate, after the trusts, is bequeathed in full to Hollis House, a residential hospice program in Sonoma County for low-income terminally ill patients and their spouses. Named, as you may know, for the man whose birthday this gathering is intended to honor. I stopped reading. I looked up. The room was perfectly still. Davenport was staring at his plate. Lorelei was staring at Sterling. Sterling's sister was looking at her own hands. Sterling herself had gone the blotchy red color of a woman whose careful arrangement has been disassembled in front of her parents. Posey, my granddaughter, who was 11 and sitting halfway down the table, had put her napkin to her mouth. Crawford, who was 9, was looking at his father. I folded the letter. I slid it back into the envelope. I placed the envelope on the table beside the paper cup of butternut soup. Garrett. Mom, you have 30 days to either pay the loan or arrange a payment schedule with Miss Dempsey. You have until the 1st of the new year to vacate the property. I am not interested in destroying you. I am interested in reclaiming what I gave you in good faith, and what was, today, used to seat me in a paper cup at my husband's birthday dinner. I want you to understand that the paper cup is what made this conversation public. If you had served me steak, this letter would have stayed in my purse until February. I picked up my purse. Posey, sweetheart. Crawford, look at me. They looked. Your grandfather is the man whose birthday this is. He believed in 3 things: kindness, paperwork, and good peaches. The cobbler I brought tonight is on the counter behind the stand mixer. It is the recipe he loved. I would like you to eat it before you sleep tonight, on real plates, with a fork. That is your inheritance from him for this evening. The rest of it you will receive when you are 25. Posey nodded. Crawford's eyes were wet, but he nodded too. Garrett, I love you. I will always love you. Love is not the same thing as access. I will see you on neutral ground when you are ready. Until then, please direct any communication to Miss Dempsey. I turned. I walked out of the dining room. I walked through the foyer. I opened the front door. I closed it softly behind me. I drove home. I did not cry on the drive. I cried for about 3 minutes when I got into my apartment, sitting on the bench inside the door with my coat still on, and then I stopped because I had things to do. Crying is a finite resource, and I had been spending it on the wrong people for most of a year. I made tea. I sat at my kitchen table by the window. The maple outside my building had gone the deep orange it always went on Hollis's birthday. He had loved that color. He had once told me, in 1991, that if he ever became unkind to me, I should sit by an October maple and ask myself whether the man I married was still in the room. He had never become unkind. He had stayed all the way through, for 47 years. I sat by the maple. I did not need to ask myself anything. The man I married had been in the room tonight, in the form of a reversion clause he had insisted on writing into the deed in 2018. When Garrett had asked us to put the house in his name for tax purposes, Dad, Hollis had said in his quiet way, "Garrett, we'll do it, but there will be a clause." He had insisted on it. He had used the same phrase my old neighbor Walter had once used, the phrase Beatrice Pendrick had quoted to me on the phone, the first time I asked her about it. A door in the floor that only she can open. Hollis had built me a door. Tonight, in front of 11 plates of steak and a paper cup of soup, I had finally opened it. The first voicemail came at 9:47 p., 3 hours after I left. Mom, please. Sterling is Sterling, and I just got home. Her parents are Lorelei is upset. Davenport is upset. Sterling is in the bathroom. She won't come out. The kids are asking what happened. Mom, please call me. I don't know what to do. The second at 10:34. Mom, I read the loan document tonight. The one you sent. The one I signed in 2019. I forgot I signed it. I forgot, Mom. I forgot the way men who don't want to remember forget. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about the soup. I didn't see the soup. Sterling brought it out after I sat down. I should have stood up. I should have stood up at the table and said something, and I cut my steak. I'm so sorry, Mom. The third at 11:51 from Sterling. Genevieve, I think we need to be very careful about how we proceed from here. The way you handled tonight reading legal documents at a family dinner in front of children was deeply inappropriate. And I want you to know that I am not the only person in this family who feels that way. My parents are extremely upset. Garrett is in pieces. I think when you've had a chance to calm down, we should have a conversation about boundaries and respect. I am willing to extend grace because I know you've been struggling since Hollis died. But the way you spoke about me tonight it was unkind. I want you to think about that. I noticed she did not mention the paper cup. I deleted that voicemail. The fourth, at 12:18 minute, was from a number I did not recognize. It turned out to be Davenport, Sterling's father. Genevieve, this is Davenport Hayward. I am calling to apologize. Lorelei and I had no idea. None of us had any idea what Sterling had done with the place settings until you stood up. I want you to know that we are sitting at our kitchen table tonight, talking very seriously about our daughter, and I am embarrassed in a way I have not been embarrassed in many years. Hollis was a fine man. The reversion clause was the act of a fine man. You did the right thing. I hope you will believe me when I say that. Please don't return this call if you don't want to. I just needed you to hear it from me. I listened to that one twice. I did not call Davenport back. Not yet. But I saved the message. Some apologies need to sit in a folder for a long time before they become anything else. That is not cruelty. That is honesty with a handle. Posey called me on Wednesday afternoon. She used her father's phone. I answered before the second ring. Grandma. Hi, sweet pea. Grandma, I ate the cobbler last night. Crawford did too. We ate it on the kitchen floor at midnight after Mum went to bed. I closed my eyes. Did your dad eat any? Yeah. He sat with us. He didn't say anything. He just ate the cobbler. Then he hugged us and went to bed. Sweet pea. That cobbler was your grandfather's favorite. It was the best thing I ever ate, Grandma. I sat with that for a long moment. Grandma. Yes. Why did Mom give you soup in a cup? I thought about how to answer that. About the long version, and the short version, and the version a 9-year-old's 11-year-old sister deserved to hear without being asked to choose sides. Posey. I am going to tell you the truth, because you asked, and because you deserve a grandmother who tells the truth. Your mother and I have not been close for a long time. She made a choice last night that was unkind, and I made a choice last night to stop pretending the unkindness was an accident. That is the whole story. It is not your job to fix it. It is not Crawford's job to fix it. It is not even your father's job to fix it. The only people who can fix it are your mother and me, and that is going to take a long time, and it might not happen at all. She was quiet for a moment. Grandma, will I still see you? Sweet pea, you will see me every Saturday for the rest of my life if you want to. Through the front door of my apartment, on your own time, with or without your mother's permission once you're 16. I am not going anywhere. I am only going where I am welcome, and you, Posey, are always welcome. Okay, Grandma. Okay, baby. She paused. Grandma. Yes. Was Grandpa really kind? I had to swallow before I answered. Posey. He was the kindest man I ever met, and the thing he loved most about being kind was that it cost him nothing to do it. That is the kind of man you should want to marry one day. The kind whose kindness costs him nothing, because it isn't a strategy. It's just who he is. Okay, Grandma. Okay, sweet pea. Eat something good for dinner. She giggled. We hung up. I sat at my window for a long time after that. The maple was still orange. The light was getting low. I made another cup of tea, and I sat with it in Hollis's old reading chair, the one I had moved into my apartment after he died, the one I would now, through the offices of Brentwood Moving, also be reclaiming the rest of our furniture to join. Garrett came on Saturday morning, alone. He stood on my apartment, landing in jeans and a flannel shirt. He had not shaved since Sunday. I opened the door halfway. "Mom, Garrett, can I come in?" "You can sit on the bench, sweetheart. I think we should keep this short the first time." He sat on the bench in my hallway. I sat in the chair across from him. We did not speak for a moment. Then he said, "Mom, I'm leaving Sterling." I did not show surprise, because I was not surprised. But I did not show satisfaction either, because there was none. "Tell me when you decided." I decided when she came home Sunday night and started to explain the soup. I sat in the living room, and I listened to her construct a version of events in which she was the victim of your overreaction. I listened for 40 minutes. "Mom, I have heard her construct that kind of sentence about other people for 15 years. I always told myself she was just careful. Sunday night, I realized she was just careful in the way a person is careful when they are managing someone, and the someone she had been managing was me." "Sweetheart." "Mum, the kids are coming with me. Sterling is going to her parents." Davenport called me. He called me too. He told me that if Sterling wasn't going to be sorry, he was going to be sorry on her behalf, but he wouldn't pretend it counted as the same thing. "Mom, I don't think I knew her father at all. He's a good man, Garrett. I think we are both learning that this week." He nodded. He looked at his hands. "Mom, the house. I can pay the loan. I can. I have a bonus coming in February, and I can liquidate the brokerage account, and I can get the loan paid in 90 days if you let me extend the 30. I'm going to vacate Holcomb Drive by Christmas. That part I'll do. I'll move into a rental with the kids. Garrett, I will let you extend the 30. I will give you 90 days for the loan. The house is mine again either way, but the loan is between you and me, and you are still my son." "Mom, yes. Will you let me come to Christmas?" "At my apartment? With the kids?" "Yes. I will let you come. Through the front door. With cobbler if you want to bring some, though I'll bring my own as a precaution." He laughed for the first time in 6 days. It was a small, wet laugh. He wiped his eye with the back of his hand. "Mom, Dad would have hated the soup." "Sweetheart, Dad built the door I opened on Sunday. He hated the soup 4 years before there was a soup." He nodded. He stood up. He left. I closed the door. I went into my kitchen. The cobbler dish from Sunday Brentwood, moving, had brought it over with the rest of the silver yesterday, untouched and uneaten on its glass platter, exactly as I had set it on Sterling's counter, was on my own counter now. I lifted the lattice crust with a fork. I cut myself a slice. I ate it, standing at my window in Hollis's old reading chair's eyeline. It was, I will say without modesty, the best peach cobbler in the state of California. That night, I sat at my kitchen table by the maple, and I wrote one line in the small notebook I had started keeping the morning after the paper cup. They served everyone steak and handed me soup in a paper cup. So I served them, my husband's last gift to me, on cream paper, with a notary's seal, in front of their children, and I took home the cobbler. Then I closed the notebook, and I drank my tea, and I slept the way a woman sleeps when her late husband, 4 years in the ground, has reached forward through paperwork and pearls, and a clause he insisted on writing into a deed in 2018, to remind her at the foot of a table where she had been seated in a paper cup that she was still, and would always be, the woman he had married, and that the door he had built her would always, always open from the inside.